It all started with a piece on Kotaku, ranking the best moments in the history of competitive gaming. It had floated by me on Twitter, and I guess I had something I felt like procrastinating that day because I clicked the link. And it's perhaps a sign of my age that I still expected Thresh vs. Immortal to show up. Anyway, topping the list was a very famous clip of a Street Fighter match between Daigo and Justin Wong that I had never seen before, which culminated in this moment. I was amazed when I saw this. Actually, I was confused. I had to Google what I was even looking at, but then I was amazed. Basically everything else on the list was either incomprehensible or uninteresting to me as a person who didn't play any of the games mentioned. But even without having played Street Fighter since grade school, this struck me as a thing of beauty. A couple years later, some podcast or other I was listening to mentioned that EVO, which is kind of the Super Bowl of fighting games, was about to begin. And I was free that week, so I streamed some of the competition. And it was the same deal as with the Kotaku piece. Street Fighter was endlessly fascinating to me, but the other games on the roster just weren't. They weren't accessible to me. The commentators would describe what was happening in ways that were really interesting in an abstract game theory sense, and it seemed probably quite exciting for the people who played these games, but as my relationship began and ended with watching, I just couldn't get into it. Which is the same relationship I have with sports, actually. I often find sports interesting to read about or to think about because I like games and systems, but as entertainment, I don't. But the exception at EVO, besides Street Fighter, was Smash, specifically Melee, which of all the games at EVO was the least like Street Fighter, and I ended up watching a crap ton of it. It was so fast, so dynamic, so unpredictable. And that may have been true of the other games at EVO, I'm not ruling it out. I just couldn't tap into it. They didn't work for me as a spectator. Maybe the linchpin here is that Street Fighter and Melee were the only games present that I had played even a little bit. But then again, I've never found competitive Soul Calibur interesting, and I've played a lot of Soul Calibur. But the seed was planted. Later, when I heard about the Smash Brothers documentary, I thought, yeah, I'd watch that. And I liked it. I mean, I had problems with it. Of course I did. They treated their only female Smasher as no more interesting than somebody's girlfriend. Awesome. Well done, guys. But overall, I liked it. Then a bit later, I bought my housemate's old GameCube, borrowed my girlfriend's copy of Melee, and picked up Captain Falcon, because why not? Then I started watching YouTube videos of Captain Falcon players to, learn through osmosis. Then I found myself watching games by the other players I'd seen in the Falcon matches and picking up all the terminology from the commentators. And before I knew what was happening, I was ranting to anyone who would listen about the time Axe four-stalked Silent Wolf on FOD in under a minute with a mid-tier character by identically executing the same absolutely amazing offstage edgeguard and I am a sports fan. How did this happen? Listen to me, I sound like Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting.
Well, that's not because Fisk, he's waving at the ball like a madman.
Yeah, get over! Get over! Get over!
Tell me if this sounds familiar. Since Captain Falcon was the first character I picked up, I have this total and irrational loyalty to him, and will almost always root for Falcon in any matchup, even as I know no one's won a major tournament with him in years. And I'm picking up the entire history of Falcon players. The old master, who retired in his prime when he lost the love of the game. The former king of Falcon, who's now a traitor for switching to Fox. The new king, who's relentlessly fast but can't guard the edge. And the elegant, graceful West Coast up-and-comer. I've got players I think are punks for possibly no good reason other than it feels good to root against a villain. There are the quote-unquote 5 gods who win basically every tournament, so I, as a rule, root against them in any matchup until they start playing each other, and then I have favorites. I get to this level of investment, and Smash ceases to be just a game. It's drama. A collection of stories with comebacks and tragedies, monsters and savants. And most of these stories probably aren't true, but they feel true. Now, maybe you already love Smash and this isn't news to you. Or maybe you love sports and are wondering why I should get so invested in a video game. Or maybe you don't care about either and you just love me, and don't worry, I love you too. All I can do today is try to explain why I personally love competitive Smash. So that's what I'm gonna try to do, okay? Okay. First, some context. Chris DeLeon has a series of articles and a Digra talk about the idea that sports and board games have rules, but video games have laws. That in soccer, you don't touch the ball with your hands because you've agreed not to. But in FIFA, you don't touch the ball with your hands because it's impossible. There's no button for it. So in a sport, you can do anything that is not expressly forbidden by the rules. In a video game, you can't do anything except what is expressly allowed by the system. So in the case of something like Daigo versus Justin Wong, what happened is that Justin executed a super art combo at a time when Daigo couldn't take even a single hit, and his only option was to parry every single hit of the combo, which means knowing the exact timing of every hit down to a few 60ths of a second. The technical proficiency required to do this is off the charts. But it's something the developers knew would be possible from the moment they allowed super moves to be parried. However incredible this is, and it is incredible, it's something the system was designed to do. But the thing about systems is there's what the system was meant to do, and then there's what the system can't stop you from doing. In Smash, an advanced technique like, say, a shield drop is put there by the designers. But things like pivoting, wave dashing, and desyncing are not. These things were not designed, they were discovered as accidents of the system, and they often take phenomenal skill to execute reliably because it's something the game doesn't actively want you to do. But they are just as integral to competitive play as the things designers put in there on purpose. So watching a high-level Smash game is sort of like watching high-level Street Fighter, but it's also like watching someone rocket jump their way through Quake. Or like watching humans learn to fly in Half-Life 2. Or watching Siglemic parkour his way through Mario 64. None of these things are done by hacking the code, but they're all done by people interested not just in what the game wants to do, but in everything the game is capable of. It's akin to taking a game's rules and making a new game out of them. This makes Smash creative in a way that a more controlled fighting game generally isn't. There's a reason we say Isaiah invented Falcon, that Axe invented Pikachu, a reason why Hax Dashing is named after Hax, why Wobbling is named after Wobbles, why this is called the Ken combo. These people quite literally changed the game. Every so often, the Melee community does tier rankings of all the playable characters, listing each in order of their supposed tournament viability and sectioning the list into chunks. Which chunk can win tournaments, which chunk can place in tournaments, which chunk has basically been abandoned by serious players, and Forrest Smith has made a few handy charts showing just how much the tier lists have changed since release. Some characters rose after years in the mid-tiers, some tanked after being considered dominant, some went down, then up, then down again. But once in a great while, someone starts fiddling with a forgotten character from the lower tiers and unlocks their potential. This has already happened with Jigglypuff and Pikachu, and something exciting about Smash today is it may be just starting to happen again. So let's talk about a specific match that I think can illustrate a few points. If you follow competitive Smash, you likely already know it. Amsa versus Mewtwo at Kings of Cali 4. Consider the matchup. Mewtwo King is a central figure in the documentary, one of the 5 gods. He's one of the best players in the history of the game. To take a set off one of the gods is considered a towering achievement. Hell, taking a single game, sometimes even a single stock, is impressive. Meanwhile, Amsa is a Yoshi player from Japan, one of the few Japanese players to attend American tournaments. And Yoshi is not considered tournament viable. He's solidly low tier, and what work was being done with him was largely abandoned several years ago. Amsa had impressed over the previous years with Yoshi at EVO and Apex, but many still wrote him off as a gimmick player. And it surprised no one when Mewtwo King took the first game of the set with 2 stocks remaining, the commentators understandably skeptical of Amsa's chances.
Man, I love Amsa, but can you see him taking a match?
But then, unexpectedly, Amsa the Red Yoshi took game 2.
Uh-oh, that's what Mewtwo King wanted! That's what Mewtwo King wanted!
And then Amsa the Red Yoshi took game 3.
Oh! These eggs don't make sense! That's it.
Oh my God! Gimmer, please show the whole crowd!
Try to understand what's happening here. To use a baseball metaphor, playing Yoshi at the tournament level is kind of like pitching a knuckleball, which I guess makes Amsa R.A. Dickey. Thrown poorly, a knuckleball is just a slow, somewhat unpredictable pitch. But, quoting a real-life baseball fan on Metafilter, because once again I don't give a about sports, little in baseball is as much fun as watching a knuckleballer on a good night. You can almost see the batters having nervous breakdowns at the plate. The rub is that to throw a knuckleball well, you have to abandon practicing any other kind of pitch. That's how hard it is. Consequently, almost no major league pitchers throw them. But, consequently, almost no major league batters have practice hitting them. It's the beautiful push-pull of the metagame. The more everyone does one thing, the more valuable it becomes to do anything else. In this set, Mewtwo has been playing Sheik, and if you're Amsa in this scenario, playing at the tournament level, you've played hundreds of Sheiks, hundreds of Foxes, hundreds of Marths, hundreds of Falcons. But if you're Mewtwo, how many competitive level Yoshis do you think you've played? The answer is none. There are no competitive level Yoshis, not since Leffen switched to Fox. And even then, Leffen never did this. Winning at Smash is not just about knowing your character, but knowing the matchup, knowing what your opponent is likely to do and what you can do in response. And not so much what Amsa is doing, but the way he's doing it has largely never been seen before. So okay, it's game 4. Amsa is up 2-1, and the set goes to the first player to get 3 wins. This is game point for Amsa. And between games 3 and 4, Mewtwo switches to Fox. And that might just mean something. See, there's this prevailing theory/joke/superstition that sooner or later, everyone will switch to Fox. Fox and his near-clone Falco have been ranked as the best characters in the game for years. You look at the rankings of the top 100 Smash players and Fox is all over it. 4 of the 5 gods have Fox or Falco in their arsenal. Fox is extremely hard to play well, but go up against a well-played Fox and just, what are you even supposed to do? And I've always read that with this undercurrent that to play anyone other than Fox is an affectation. That you play Captain Falcon either because you're not good enough with Fox or because you're so good that you can even win without Fox. So it's easy to read Mewtwo character switch as saying, okay, we've had fun, but good luck with this. And it's easy to reframe this match as being between 2 aspects of the metagame. On the one side, that in an unbalanced system, and Smash was never balanced for this kind of play, there is often one dominant strategy that trumps all others. And on the other side, that knuckleball, the weirdness and variety that can trump a dominant strategy just by being different. And for me, being a person who fell in love with the weirdness and variety of Smash, someone whose heart would be broken if Smash became an endless stream of Fox dittos, this match starts to mean something. And this right here, this is so incredibly sweet.
Oh, that's
it! Amsa takes it. He does a Shoryuken in celebration. Mewtwo dejectedly unplugging.
Now, I will be the first to say it. I'm reaching. Of course I'm reaching. I've taken a mixture of true skill, statistical probability, and blind luck in who knows what proportions and made it into a story. And by necessity, that means I'm leaving things out. For instance, that Mewtwo isn't a Fox is the future type. He switches to Marth at least as often as he switches to Fox. In fact, many would argue that the top of the top tier is rock, paper, scissors between Fox, Falco, Sheik, and Marth. Is it this way or that way? I don't remember. And Mewtwo often plays worse when the crowd is against him, or at least that's how the stories go, and the stories feel true. The truth is, there are no sabermetrics in Smash. A few stats are tracked, but no one's calculated the Vegas odds on Amsa versus Mewtwo. Did Amsa win at 2-1 against, or 50-1? We don't know. Does Mewtwo actually lose more often when the crowd is against him, or is that confirmation bias? We don't know. Does Amsa have any staying power, or will he slide back down the power rankings once other players figure out his bag of tricks? How much will he adapt to the competitive scene, and how much will the competitive scene adapt to him? We don't know. The power rankings, the tier lists, they're all calculated by casting votes, opinions. Competitive Smash is built entirely out of stories. It's not just a game, it's theater. And just because something's a story doesn't mean it isn't also true, at least partially. I do see Amsa as a sign that a sea of Foxes would leave everyone ill-equipped to fight anything other than Fox, and as a beacon of hope that Smash will stay weird, at least for a little while. I'm reminded of Chuck Klosterman writing about football, describing the time when suddenly every team was relying heavily on the read option, and how in a few years they would almost certainly all be doing something else. And being that that essay is a few years old, by now they presumably are. And it makes me think of how different the Smash of today already looks from the Smash of the documentary, and wonder how different from today Smash may look in a few years. It's hard to believe that Smash will ever bore me, and that's a story I hope is true. And I've gathered that this kind of mythologizing is what sports fans do. You remember that cynical line from High Fidelity that insists we make connections not based on who we are, but whether we like the same things?
What really matters is what you like, not what you are like.
I've always felt that making connections is less about what you like than why you like it. So I can still honestly say that I don't give a f*** sports. But Smash makes me feel like, for the first time, I think I get why people do. Which is an interesting feeling for a former high school nerd. Because holy hell, I love this game. And I love telling people why I love it. I love how different all the characters are, even as I hate Fox. I love the racial diversity of the players, even as I don't so much love their monolithic maleness. I love the commentators. I hate the trash talk. I love spending the morning watching Captain Falcon matches and then practicing short hops with my girlfriend. I love this game. And if you don't give a Smash, that's fair. You do you. I'm not trying to pressure you into liking what I like. I just hope you see how it's even possible for something so weird and seemingly innocuous to inspire so much passion. How a party game that's basically the video game equivalent of a 12-year-old smashing their toys together can be fun, hilarious, freakishly complex, and, from the right vantage point, even beautiful.
Oh! 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 What? Oh! Lord! What the crap? Are you kidding me? Did that just happen? Lord! What? What? I just kicked my bike over, bro.